The consciousness and the cosmos, a path to one's own inner cosmos, in assistance of the more profound understanding of the current planetary transition. Hello dear listeners, my name is Jez.
My name is Arawinak.
We will be hosting the program.
The Consciousness and the Cosmos, radio program of Uksim, Planetary Service Center.
Today's topic is, what is energy and how do we handle energy pollution?
La energía es el principio cósmico universal que utiliza el único, el inmutable, para administrar todo con mayúsculas. Quiere decir, la energía es todo y está en todo y todo lo conduce.
Daniel says, energy is the universal cosmic principle which uses the one, the immutable, to manage everything. Everything with capital letters. It means energy is everything, and it is in everything, and it drives everything.
No hay ausencia de energía en nada, pero sí hay distintos aspectos de la energía en todo.
There is no absence of energy in anything. There are different aspects of energy in everything. Energy has such an absolute intelligence that it manifests, guides, conducts, and regulates everything according to the needs of the particles that are present in a field of existence. The planetary surface is one of the fields of the existence of this planet. Not the only one. They are intraterrestrial or central magma fields of existence, all regulated by different laws. The central magma and the surface are under the law of karma.
Pero la energía, decíamos, es todo y está en todo. Lo cual nos lleva, antes de seguir profundizando algunos aspectos, a sugerirnos tener cuidado con esta tendencia.
Daniel says, at the intra-earthly levels, the higher evolutionary law, or the law of cycles, governs, but energy, as we said, is all and is in all. This leads us, before going further into some aspects, to suggest that we are aware of this growing tendency to manipulate energy. A moment ago we said that energy is absolutely intelligent. It is all-knowing, omnipotent, all-powerful, omnipresent and in everything. Those are the three basic principles of energy. Its omnipresence, its omnipotence, and its omniscience. So if any of us were to say that we are ready because it was revealed to us, or because we paid for initiation or whatever, that we are ready to direct and manipulate energy, we would say that we are living a great egoic, selfish, primitive illusion, because energy does not need any of us to tell it where to be, what to do and how to do it. It is enough on its own. So if we had a genuine awareness of what energy is, we wouldn't go into controversial practices, because while men invent practices, often just to bring money into their lives, energy tries to stimulate them to realize that they are making a mistake. But this thing we were talking about a while ago, free will, is the great test. I do what I feel like doing, and if I feel like telling the energy to do something, I'm going to do it.
Hace instantes decíamos que la energía es absolutamente inteligente. Quiere decir que todo lo sabe. Es omnipotente, todo lo puede, ¿sí? Y, de algún modo, omnipresente, está en todo. Esos son los tres principios básicos de la energía: su omnipresencia, su omnipotencia y su omnisciencia.
And surely the energy, as I do with an enormous purity of heart, will almost certainly reciprocate my request, so that being does not understand, as we said, that energy comes from the centre of creation. It is the only and absolute tool that the immutable, the only one, the unnameable, the coordinating centre of galactic life, has to order and administer everything with capital letters. That is to say, coming from that central axis of cosmic life, it is not a question, as we sometimes say, that it has arrived here. It just forgot what it has to do, and we have to tell the energy how, when, and where.
Se basta por sí misma. Entonces, si tuviéramos realmente una conciencia genuina de lo que es la energía, no entraríamos en prácticas que son controversiales para la energía, porque mientras los hombres inventan prácticas...
Which of the two is wrong? The energy that sustains everything, or us who are determined to tell it what to do? There is an open answer, an open ending to that question. I am trying to understand the answer. I think I'm getting close. So we should have a little more evolutionary coherence and a little more humility. It's like asking God for something, and because I ask him for it a lot and with respect, surely I have to stay there with my hands open and outstretched, because at any moment he lands, and just in case I don't put one, I put two, it's a question of him giving me twice as much.
Entonces, ese ser no entiende, como dijimos, que la energía procede del centro de la creación. Es la herramienta única y absoluta que tiene el inmutable, el único, el innombrable, el centro coordinador de la vida galáctica.
Asking God is the same as trying to manipulate energy. It's not something else, but has different semantics and grammar. So we must consider that asking does not correspond, because what we have and how we have it, whether lacking or superfluous, is because of the relationship with the laws of energy. According to this, we sustain the relationship with the laws. In other words, we comply with the laws. It is that which destiny, for which we say we want to prepare ourselves, is going to offer us. If my relationship to the cosmic laws, reflected in the spiritual laws and offered by my soul, is terrible, what am I waiting for to appear in my life? What could appear in my life but precisely the karmic return of my attitude?
So what I have to change is my relationship with the cosmic laws. Not to ask God to change his mind, because That is why he is immutable, so that he, with his immutability, can sustain all stages of mutability, transformation and irregularity and instability that my consciousness has to go through until it can gradually overcome certain cosmic process, so that it can reflect in more stable way the spiritual principles that are waiting for availability in a higher way that my consciousness can offer. Asking energy for something and asking God for something is exactly the same thing. What we have to do is regulate our relationship with the laws. Everything is law, even if we are unaware of which aspect of the law is being offered to us. Everything is cosmic law, because what we have to do beyond understanding, which might be the law with which we are interacting in this moment, is to implant harmony and equilibrium in our life, and from there to radiate it. That is to say, our work of attunement to the aspects of the law beforehand is the preparation and the approach to the living spiritual essence present within us.
Si nosotros logramos alinearnos gradualmente con nuestra esencia interna, para luego entrar en sintonía con ese principio espiritual, y logramos sintonizar de un modo suficientemente estable, ¿sí?, y sostener ese proceso, automáticamente el principio de armonía y equilibrio que fuera el resultante de esa conexión pasaría a ser irradiado por nuestra conciencia.
If we were able to gradually align ourselves with our inner essence and then become attuned to the spiritual principle, and if we were able to attune in a sufficiently stable way and sustain that process, the principle of harmony and equilibrium resulting from that connection will automatically be radiated by our consciousness.
Logically, not in a stable way, but the initial instability would be overcome. We would always have more to overcome because the material conditions do not allow for stability. But that is not a sufficient argument for not being able to be as stable and perfect as we would believe we have to be. It is not a sufficient argument for not trying continuously to the end, to be and do the best until the end. That is the work we have to do in matter. And as we plan internally some things, and as we incarnate, we would have to fulfill them. That inner alignment and attunement would allow us to make way for the growth of the intuitive nature of the intuitive life, of the intuitive energy, because only through intuition, energy has the possibility to reveal to our consciousness what we have to do.
Ese es el trabajo que tenemos que hacer en la materia. Y como planificamos internamente algunas cosas y al encarnar tendríamos que cumplirlas, esa alineación y sintonía interiores nos permitiría abrir paso.
He will not give us a great revelation, first of all because we are not worthy of great revelations, because every time something is revealed to us, we will throw it away. But if he reveals to us some interesting things that we still owe, and we were trying to fulfill those things, we would be opening a breach, generating a breach in an energy field that generally refracts the inner life, as is the ordinary life of humanity. If each one of us would learn to quiet ourselves, to still ourselves, to allow the inner life to touch it, gradually receiving it, accepting it, sustaining it, serving from the relationship we have with that matter, we would be enriching a process that would lead in one way or another to the gradual elevation and rescue of the material life of this planet, without remembering us, without being preoccupied with us.
So energy is going to take over our life, even without us noticing it. And even as with some people on this planet, when they talk about energy, they think of electric current, nuclear power or traction. Because the rest is all theory, not always possible to prove. But those of us who no longer need to see to believe, and who are not limited to what can be weighed, measured and counted, who already have a perception of that which others do not perceive, commit to execute and sustain that energy of life differently. There is an aspect of energy that is not always taken into account, which is called force. And when we talk about retrograde, involuntary and dissuasive forces, we are talking about one of those forms of forces. For example, the three-dimensional field of the Earth's surface is supported by forces and energies that are not in confrontation because nothing can confront energy. However, forces were prepared by the energy as deactivated aspects of its own integrity to the cosmic situations, in this case of humanity fundamentally. When a being faces negative or unstable situations, what he is facing are forces. If his condition is still so limited, he cannot see the spiritual will of the energy in that situation. Then, if the being remains stuck on the surface of the situation, with the appearance of the situation, with the form of that situation, what he is expressing is a relationship with the field of forces that sustain that situation.
Pero sí las fuerzas fueron preparadas por la energía como un aspecto desactivado de su propia integridad para poner a prueba las situaciones kármicas, en este caso de la humanidad fundamentalmente. Cuando un ser...
The forces are the ones that are there, pressing. The forces are the ones that are trying to pull us down. The forces are the ones that are unbalancing everything in us. The forces are the ones that are not allowing us to be in attunement with the energies that are operating occultly, so that we can overcome the influence of the material forces. Gradually in our consciousness, we try to attune with the inner energies, with the cosmic energies within us, with the hierarchy or whatever factors is valid for our consciousness in this evolutionary instance. So contamination has nothing to do with the energies, because energy has absolute intelligence. When energy stimulates us, we reject the stimuli, energy will not overstimulate us, because it knows that if the energy overstimulates us, that will destroy us. When there is a rejection, the energy in its intelligence does not overstimulate. The law of karma regulates the destructive reach of those forces so that they put us to the test, but they cannot destroy us.
That is why the law of karma, which is the first of the three cosmic laws, which guides us, which offers us guidance with evolutionary guarantees, means that no matter what we do, no matter what we face, no matter what we encounter, and no matter how many mistakes we make, we cannot destroy our consciousness because there are karmic limits that we cannot cross, even if we want to cross them. So the ability of these forces to impact us is regulated by the law of karma. They will test us to the breaking point. They will leave us lying on the floor, but it is always going to be up to us to pick ourselves up. Energy does not contaminate. Our attitude contaminates us in the face of energy. When we are at a stage where we should respond to the inner will and the higher mandate of energy, that is, the lower will should respond to the higher will, and it does not, it gradually becomes contaminated.
Cuando nosotros estamos en una etapa donde debiéramos responder a la voluntad interna y al mandato superior de la energía, quiere decir, la voluntad inferior debiera responder a la voluntad superior y no lo hace, gradualmente se contamina. ¿De qué se contamina?
At the present time, and for a long time now, the psychic layer does not harbor light, and there are no longer hierarchies operating in the psychic layer as they were before in the past. Today the entire psychic layer is occupied, co-opted, one might say, by deterrent forces. When we are not in attunement and obedience to the inner stimuli, or if there is still a great deal of inconsistency to donate ourselves to stay open and predisposed to the instruction of the inner life, we are not in a neutral state, where nothing will affect us. If we are not attuned to the inner stimuli, aligned to the inner life, and seeking to respond to it, the psychic layer's influence on us is automatically amplified. The longer we delay the seeking, the greater the influence this psychic layer has on us. The different forces gain ground. Not only do they grow and straighten, but we are awakened by the lack of inner connection. The only genuine nourishment that exists is the inner nourishment.
Those deterrent forces undermine our will and our attention, undermine our ability to achieve the much needed inner attunement and alignment. They contaminate us. The internal explanation for this is that human consciousness has distanced itself from the light and the inner essence, distanced itself from the inner will, from its essence and its light. It has sickened our psyche, so that in such unstable, crude, irregular and chaotic situations, such as those that are present on the surface of the earth today, we are acting in such a way that we do not go mad, or that our brain is not affected through our mental field, emitting as a mirror and a tool that the brain is of the light, unstable and selfish patterns. Both the mind and the brain become sick through selfishness. The absence of inner attunement, of inner light and inner essence, makes the particles that make up the brain material, the cerebral cortex, the cerebral etheric, rigid and decaying. When the mind only leads the brain to function selfishly orientated, and it makes more and more speculative or more rational, more and more comparative, it leads to disease.
Hoy toda la capa psíquica está ocupada, copada podríamos decir, por fuerzas disuasivas. Cuando nosotros no entramos en sintonía y obediencia con los estímulos internos, no es que quedamos en un estado neutro donde nada nos va a afectar.
Science today confuses a little when a disease is mental and when it is cerebral, because science made the mistake and continues to make the mistake of believing that the brain is the mind and the mind is the brain and the mind is a body that is above the physical body, whereas the brain is a physical anchoring tool of the mental body, in the same way the heart center is the anchoring tool in the physical body for the emotional or astral body. If we do not offer our mental consciousness and our emotional center to the search for essence, it is no wonder that physically we go into further deterioration, because we do not offer it the nourishment that was really intended, archetypally to feed our thoughts and feelings until we reach that instance where, intimately, silently, out of the eyes of the world, but in the eyes of the higher and the divine, we can donate ourselves. We are not ready for what follows. If this gesture of donation is genuine, life will ask us and offer us proof that we can sustain this donation.
So what you put in yesterday is insufficient today. And we are faced with the test of renewing the commitment to the laws and to the inner life. The evolutionary plan is waiting for us not only to put in what we offered to put in before we incarnated, what we committed to fulfill, meaning our internal planning. But that, in face of a lot of absenteeism and without warning, we are willing to roll up our sleeves and put more and more. Only the forgetfulness of ourselves and the genuine capacity to keep donating ourselves, and in a spiritual practice of giving moment by moment what is appropriate, is that we are going to accomplish this rescue of the planetary life.
Spiritual work, as we see, is not a hobby. It is not a hobby at all, and more than one should consider coming out of the wardrobe, as the expression as is often used for other things. Coming out of the wardrobe and directly facing their life under a materialistic system, because that is the way it is, and stop contaminating that strip of energy, which is a kind of vibratory pattern that those who really work for the inner life are sustaining, are trying to mature in order to make available to others. That is to say, to radiate, that those who are not prey to material forces, who are not seeking attunement with the psychic layer, are generating. They are trying to mature in order to make available to others, that is the irradiation, that those who are not prey to material forces and who do not seek attunement with the psychic layer are generating as a joint liberation from a minority of vibratory pattern which seriously seeks to put on the other side of the scale what is almost totally missing.